just saw it. Alrighty, getting started. Wait for people to come in. Get this going. Got a lot of stuff. Lots of stuff. And then we got some updates, things like that. But we'll be getting through it. A lot of stuff, little updates for today, for tomorrow and for Thursday. And then we'll figure it out for the rest of the week. There was actually a lot more stuff today than I thought I would see. That was not something I was ready for. Yeah. Slow and growing. Had a good stream yesterday. Got very sidetracked from the actual video, but I think we had good conversations. I think that's the beauty of this. I plan all this shit out, and then we talk about, did the U.S. win World War II? Like all kinds of weird shit. Yeah. I think we're getting to it. Welcome to everyone who's here. My name's David. This is Fresh Faces New Ideas. You can follow me here on Twitch at twitch.tv/FreshFacesNewIdeas. You can follow me on YouTube at Fresh Faces New Ideas. And you can follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. All of which I update. Well, the YouTube gets updated when I put the streams up, and I'm a little behind. I haven't put up the panel yet or yesterday's, and I'll do all that today. So there should be 4 or 5-ish videos going up for the YouTube, depending on how I break down the panel. I haven't gone through the footage of it to see how well it worked. But we should be good there. And then we'll I'll have those up. But I mean, for those of you who are here and saw the stream, you don't need to check out the YouTube channel unless you want to check out all my older videos when I was trying to do YouTube specifically instead of Twitch. But other than that, yeah, there's that for YouTube. We'll do a little update for tomorrow's broadcast. Hold on, let me get the Discord as well. That's the people on Discord learning that it's up. This is the Discord. Join the Discord so we can have other conversations. Now that more people have joined it, we can start, discussing ideas, posting topics. We can have, other conversations. I'm going to talk to a couple people. Probably we're going to aim for next week, I guess, with Feline Father. And then I don't know about what I'm doing with Cut Sleeves. I do want to talk to him, though. And then I know JFreak7, he's doing the... I think he's talking to CTV right now. Yeah, he's talking to CTVs for their midday stream. So we'll probably have something talking to him at some point in the future, because I know he wanted to talk about all the gun data. I haven't gotten a chance to look through it yet, but we'll get through it. So quick update for the streams and stuff. Tomorrow is regular planned time at 1. But we're also going to have a second bonus stream where I'm recording the Productive Conversations podcast with my my college friend. It's a basketball podcast that'll be at 8 p.m. EST. We will be doing that live. Hold on, how did he say he wanted me to cover this? Hello, MPV. Wait 1 second. Map around. Okay, yeah, just going to be a podcast recording. So we'll be covering that. And then from there, we'll just be talking about basketball. So that'll be for tomorrow. That'll be at 8 p.m. for people who want to see that. If you actually, I did an interview with him. It's actually a couple months old now, right? It's 2 months ago. So it's if you go to, this is the copy. There's actually 2 links. So give me a second. So this is the longer one, and this is. Hold on, let me find the other one. This is another one that he pulled up. I think this was just a quick cut off of it. I'm not sure where he pulled it from, but here's we go for that. So this is so that's if you want to see the conversation we've had. We have we'll just be talking basketball. So we'll be probably talking, I think, the end of the first round and whatever's going on in the second round. So those of you who want me to discuss things other than politics, that's it. As for today, we have a couple stories about flags, because apparently flags are a big deal. We have there's a nice little poll to take a look at. We have Greg Abbott doing new type of patriot education. We got a who wrote this story? ProPublica, on the rich and how they don't pay any taxes. And then we got Joe Manchin. And Joe Manchin deciding that democracy isn't really important. So that's the plan for what we get to. Whether we ultimately get to all of that will depend on you guys. If I get sidetracked by conversations, which I don't mind. I don't mind talking to anybody. Like I said, I will talk to pretty much anybody about anything. It is very difficult to get banned out of this chat because I'm not going to get rid of you for disagreeing with me. It's just, if you're like advocating violence, or if you're being like overly racist or anti-Semitic, then you'll get banned. But other than that, everyone is pretty much welcome. I'll talk to pretty much anyone in the chat. The beauty of this stream is still we're kind of tiny. I usually have under double-digit viewers sometimes, and then from there, I just have conversations with whoever wants to engage. So I'm always going to engage people. That's the point of this, is to have conversations with all of you. But yeah, that appears to be the push for today. Is that, and then Thursday we have the crowdsourced politics. That's at 8 p.m. as well. So that's for that. Whether or not we have other discussions during the week, we'll see. I haven't figured out if I'm going to be able to have other discussions for that. But yeah, we're slowly growing. If there's other people who want to come in and talk, send them the Discord, join the Discord. It's always easy. I'm pretty easy to talk to. And if they have articles and stuff, if you post stuff, I'll generally look at it. And if I don't have an answer for you right away, I'll get back to you eventually. I usually follow up. But the thing about the follow-ups is, when I do follow up, it's always good for you, because I'll tell you, like, someone was asking me about doing the deep dive into the lab stuff, and then they disappeared for 3 days, so they missed all that information. So usually, if you ask me something for me to look into, I'll look into it in the next couple days, but I'll usually tell you when it's up, or it's in the stream title. But yeah, we got lots of interesting things. One of these stories I literally just saw this morning. It was then followed up by, apparently Washington is giving people free joints if you get a vaccine, and Fox News was complaining, if your vaccine works so good, why do you need to No, you see, I don't agree with that, because there is a way he ends up as a Republican, and that's if we take away his committee seats. but it's his reasoning just is counterintuitive. And I don't understand how this idea that no Democrat could ever win West Virginia again. I know it's a huge. It went for Trump like it was such a huge swing. But there's plenty. Like, we're gonna look at the polling for some of the things that Joe Manchin's against. And how do you expect to win when you're going against all the things that your constituents want? If you had a narrow victory, and then your constituents overwhelmingly across the board want certain things done, and you say, I'm not going to do them for a plethora of really dumb and inconsistent reasons, what is the point of how are you representing? Who are you representing? And that's really what it comes down to, is who is he actually representing? No, I don't think he needs a... No, it's actually not based on West Virginia citizens. It's actually, if you look at the polling, the exact opposite of what they want. His reasoning is based on what he gets paid for by the Koch brothers, because he's parroting their talking points. Yes, Jamie Harrison and Amy McGrath were awful candidates. Well, Amy McGrath was an awful candidate. Jamie Harrison, them losing, obviously makes Joe Manchin more important. But the bigger problem is not, like, Joe Manchin is just the face of this, so he's the one who gets the most pushback, because he's the one who is outwardly saying things, and I'm sure there's other Democrats who are against this. But because he's the one out there, he's the one who gets the pushback. So he's the one who gets to say the stupid things, in the same way that Kyrsten Sinema, when she had that incredibly stupid interview. I have an article where he's parroting Trump. Look, all right, we're going to pull this up. This is the, hold on. Give me 1 second. This is the opinion polling for people in West Virginia for the COVID relief, the American Jobs Plan, and the For the People Act. This is across-the-board support. He said he's against this. That means he's representing only the 15%. This is the highest approval for any of them. He's just wrong on this. It doesn't have to do with, I mean, the Koch money helps, but it's a lot of the talking points that he's parroting. And the real reason he's I don't. All right, but we're going to see that, and I think Schumer's bringing it up. The For the People Act, we'll see. I think a lot of the issues is the election integrity stuff. It's the removing the dark money and the public financing of elections. That's where the issue is. And as much as I would hate to lose that part of the bill, if we had to cut that out to get the actual election integrity stuff that would stop the gerrymandering and undo a lot of the things that the states are doing, then I would be for it, and we can do it. Well, they can't do the John Lewis bill either, because he's not for the John Lewis bill. You can't do either of these bills without changing the filibuster. It's impossible. You will not get 10 Republicans to vote for this. I don't think you'll get 2 Republicans to vote for it. So it's irrelevant of which one they do. That's the one he's looking for, is for the John Lewis bill? Fine. It's irrelevant. If he's not going to do anything but the filibuster, it doesn't matter. He's either supporting the wrong bill, or he's not going to do anything that's going to change it. The Republicans will not vote for anything that goes against what they're currently doing in the states. There's no reason for them to do it. It's actually counterintuitive for them to do it, because currently they're stacking the deck in their favor. Why would they do something that makes it less likely that they're going to win? So therefore, he is going to stop that from happening by not removing the filibuster. So he's doing one of two things wrong. He's either ignoring the more popular legislation, or he's not going to change the mechanism in order to pass the legislation he wants to pass. It's one of those two. And he's wrong on the filibuster too. We have the Chris Wallace interview, where Chris Wallace calls him out on it. It's just not he's just wrong. And it's incredibly frustrating. And look, I know the argument is, oh, what if he becomes a Republican? That's fine. And he goes, oh, well, I vote for things when they come to the floor, which is something that the whoever was interviewing Jamal Bowman said to him. He's like, yeah, he votes for it when it comes to the floor. It doesn't matter if he votes for it when it comes to the floor, if he's also blocking the ability to let those legislation pass. It's a two-pronged problem. He's not pushing. His reasoning against the which one is he against? The For the People Act is just doesn't make any sense. And his reasoning for the filibuster also makes no sense. So he could vote 110% Democrat. Like, he can make up other bills. He can make other ways to vote more than 100% of the time Democrats. But if he's not going to help change the structures to allow those bills to pass, it's irrelevant. That's what it comes down to. You can't have it both ways. Because we don't live in an era where they're going to reach bipartisanship. And there's just no historical reference to prove the things that he's saying, like, on any level. It's his ability to do these, to say these things is just counterintuitive. And look, I don't know what he wants from this. And I think the best way to do this is they bring the John Lewis bill to the floor. And when one Republican votes for it, they bring Joe Manchin. Right, I understand that. But because there's not currently an election happening, they can't do it. So what happens to happen? How are you going to expand your electorate if your goal is, what are you going to go back to the people? Oh, we couldn't pass the things that you wanted because we didn't want to remove the ability for the Republicans to block us? Like, what is the pitch to the people? And look, I understand the CARES Act thing, but if you look at what he did to the CARES Act, he made the CARES Act worse. In order to get, he almost sank the CARES Act to get Republican support. And then you know what? None of them supported it. We can't go into 22. Exactly. But what are they going to push in 22? The COVID relief? You have to actually have a record of doing something. And you can't do anything as long as Joe Manchin stops the filibuster. So the thing, we're not arguing that, yes, we should have done better in 2020. That's obvious. But we can't change things in order to do better, to bring the people who are going to help push us. If we keep saying, oh, you elected us to do all these things, and then we allowed the Republican minority to block us because we had the power to remove the roadblock, but we just didn't. What type of messaging is that? What is the messaging that's going to get people to turn out? Because we're going to, if we don't enact anything to respond to the election, the rolling back of our democracy, the Republicans don't need to do away with the filibuster. There is no reason for them to remove the filibuster. The reason, all they want to do is tax cuts and judges, and the filibuster does not stop either of those things. There is no scenario where the filibuster hurts the Republicans. It just doesn't. And they want to keep the filibuster because there's an element of them that is so far to the right that even they don't want to deal with. So they're happily to let them run around in circles and fire up the base, but not actually pass any of these things. If they remove the filibuster, they would have to do things like get rid of abortion, which Americans don't support. They would have to roll back more firearms protections, which Americans don't support. They would have to do they would have to roll back gay marriage, which Americans don't support. They would institute more anti-trans legislation, which Americans don't support. There is no scenario where the Republicans get into power and remove the filibuster to just start doing shit. The Biden administration is done now. It's over. Unless they do something about the filibuster, the Biden administration is over. It's as simple as that. This is not a difficult conversation. It's very clear what's happening. There's no way for them to push for legislation because Joe Biden won't do the simple things that he wanted to do by executive order that could have helped him, at least bolster something. And by the time this finally goes through, who knows where we'll be. But we'll talk about Joe Manchin. That was going to be the last part. I want to talk about where are we looking at? I want to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene very quickly. So there's this only old glory legislation that she's pushing. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has backed prohibiting U.S. embassies from flying the Pride flag, even as Pride Month saw American diplomatic posts around the world standing with the LGBTQ community. Look, the only Old Glory Act basically says that you can only fly the U.S. Flag. Now, this is not about, like she says, making one group more important than the other. Because unlike in January 6th, where they took down the American flag and they put up the Trump flag, or where they walked around the Capitol with the Confederate flag, which are still traitors, the Pride flag still flies below the American flag. And what it does is help represent the people who are minorities in our country and in the world. And it helps. No, I don't agree with that either, because that is a step back to the actual bill that they passed. That is going backwards to still go backwards, because the Republican bill is bad. It's a bad bill. It doesn't even do the things the Republicans wanted to do. And the key reason it doesn't do that is because it's an easy talking point. If they pass the Republican bill, the Republican response will be the Joe Biden administration raised your taxes when they told you they wouldn't. And the reason it is because the Republicans refused to raise taxes on the wealthy or roll back the Donald Trump tax cuts, which overwhelmingly went to the wealthy. Instead, the Republican bill for infrastructure is designed to target regular people to pay for the other $200 billion. It does not put anywhere near enough money into roads, bridges, and infrastructure, the things that they consider real infrastructure. It is not a good bill. To take that bill is a disaster. That bill is like the easiest talking point that the Republicans actually don't argue this in good faith. And look, they should push that through the reconciliation anyway. There's no reason to take it from unused COVID money, because that'll just cause more problems in the end. Okay. Anyway, look, there is no reason to be against this. Also, she says some truly crazy stuff. Who is she talking to here? Newsmax. Okay. So she's talking to Newsmax. And this person said, ask Greene whether she believed the presence of Pride and Black Lives Matter flags in cities were Biden's administration initiated. Yeah, he did initiate the Pride flag. So it used to be an Obama era thing. And then Trump reversed it. And then the Biden administration reversed it anyway. So what happened was Barack Obama said an embassy can fly the Pride flag if they want. And then Donald Trump said, no, you have to ask us for permission before you fly the Pride flag. And they basically said, no, you can't. Which was in line with a lot of what Donald Trump was doing that rolled back the rights of gay people. His multiple attacks on the LGBTQ plus community. And obviously she She thinks Black Lives Matter is a terrorist organization because she just doesn't understand pretty much anything. So look, this is an incredibly stupid thing to be arguing. It's just more because a lot of the people who are responding to this legislation are people who just hate gay people. And then there was this on Fox. So they were complaining about this reporter who went on MSNBC, Mara Gay. First, I want to briefly talk about the segment that followed this. They were talking about who was giving what incentives to get the vaccine. And they're like, well, adolescents just want to do what's cool. And, if your vaccine's so good, they'll just find it themselves. But we have plenty of evidence to show that just getting the vaccine because it's the right thing to do, or that it's safe, or that it will help people get back to normal, enough Americans aren't going to do the right thing to do that. It's as simple as that. The sad truth is we need to be incentivized to do the right thing. They had to be incentivized to wear masks. They had to be mandated to wear masks, which is the simplest thing you possibly could have done, because it became a culture war because a whole bunch of people are fucking babies. They just are. I'm sorry, wearing a mask is like a Herculean task for you. Let's put it this way. If wearing a mask is too difficult for you, you shouldn't have access to a firearm. Because one of those things will kill somebody. And it's not the mask. That's just, every time I think about the mask issue, it just makes me madder. Because it's so stupid. So many people died for no reason. So here's her, I haven't actually seen what she's this whole clip.
I think this is another area where Democrats really need to get serious about talking about what this threat is. I think you said it really well, Joe, a minute ago, where you talked about the need to stop being surprised by all of this and start taking it seriously. It's really concerning to me that the Democrats haven't just gone ahead at this point and said we're doing this on our own in terms of getting a commission together to explain to the American people how we allowed the insurrection to take place in the Capitol. I think that really needs to move forward.
Oh, there was. The Senate just had a report that came out on this, so we're going to go over that tomorrow. It's 127 pages. So I haven't had a chance to look at it. I only just briefly realized it was a thing. But it appears to be heavily edited to become bipartisan, so it leaves out a lot of the actual information that's necessary to figure things out. And it's another reason why we need the January 6th Commission, which, look, I'm sure there will be more Twitch panels about the January 6th Commission. It is irrelevant to talk about why they blocked it. The true question that has to be asked is, how do you now tell the American people that what is the messaging around this? The Republican messaging is they're trying to make Trump supporters look bad. It's a witch hunt, like the COVID, the Russia investigation was a witch hunt. They're being unfair to Trump supporters. Well, the obvious answer is, very simple. If you're talking to Republicans, your answer to them is, your lawmakers Republicans keep telling us that it's Antifa and Black Lives Matter who attacked the Capitol, not Trump supporters. If you think it's Antifa and Black Lives Matter who attacked the Capitol, not Trump supporters, and Trump supporters are being unfairly blamed for that, don't you think the Republicans should have allowed an investigation to prove their points correctly? Don't you think the Republicans should have allowed an investigation to look into and prove that this was not really a big deal, that nothing actually happened, there was a false flag or whatever crazy other conspiracy that they have? Or if you're talking to somebody else, you respond with, if you're talking to an independent or somebody else, you tell them, look, this was as bipartisan as it gets. Everything the Republicans asked for, they got. It was a 50-50 split. The subpoena power was basically you needed either the vice chair and the chair to agree, or you needed a majority rules. It's not currently people in the government, so you can't say, oh, they're pro-Trump because they're anti-Trump. So the Republicans pick 5 and the Democrats pick 5. it was as bipartisan as you get, and it's always worth remembering that these subpoenas are toothless. They just are. I don't like this is a real issue with how democracy has changed now. We've realized under the Trump administration that you can't be being compelled to testify doesn't matter if you have power. If you can just hire a lawyer and drag it out long enough, it doesn't matter. Because we just saw it. Last week, Don McGahn got called in for something responding to the Mueller report. That was 2 years ago. Oh, and onto the witch hunt thing, because I've seen actual people make this argument. And I've actually seen the same people make the argument, oh, Benghazi didn't find anything, so there's no reason for us to do anything. Well, that's because Benghazi was designed as, the Benghazi hearings were designed as a political smear campaign. That's what they turned into. Now, if we actually had a commission and, we had 9 other ones after that, and they all found the same thing, then we could have a comparison. But they wouldn't even allow the first one. And it's also clear that that's another example of the filibuster not working, because there was bipartisanship on that. 7 Republicans voted for it. And you know what? The 34, was it 34? 35 Republicans, there was 11 who missed them, didn't won. Anyway, here's what she said.
The reality is here that we have a large percentage of the American population. I don't know how big it is, but we have tens of millions of Trump voters who continue to believe that their rights as citizens are under threat by simple virtue of having to share the democracy with others. I think as long as they see Americanness as the same as one with whiteness, this is going to continue. We have to figure out how to get every American a place at the table in this democracy, but how to separate Americanness, America, from whiteness. Until we can confront that and talk about that, this is really going to continue. I was on Long Island this weekend visiting a really dear friend.
So this is the part they're going to get mad at, not the American is equal to whiteness part. Which, look, if you look at a lot of the complaints from the people because if you remember during the 2020 election, they're like, we have like 4,000 affidavits signed of people who saw things that are wrong. A lot of them were, oh, it's just a black guy that I don't trust. Oh, it's just a Spanish person that I don't think should be here. Oh, I saw somebody with a blue hat. They're just nonsense arguments from basically a lot of racists.
And I was really disturbed. I saw, dozens and dozens of pickup trucks with, explicatives against Joe Biden on the back of them, Trump flags, and some cases just dozens of American flags, which is also just disturbing because essentially the message was clear. It was, this is my country. This is
what they're pushing is that, now the American flag is bad. How she thinks the American flag is disturbing. It's, first off, in the whole context of it, the Trump flags are fucking weird. They just are. These people who are like, how are you gonna tell me that Joe Biden got 80 million votes, but I don't see a single Biden flag? Because it's not a fucking cult. You're not supposed to worship the goddamn president. That's not how it works. So people still flying Trump flags are lunatics. The American flag thing is stupid. There's a lot of, people say dumb shit all the time. This idea that it's like, this is going to be their new outrage for today, is that the Washington Post and the leftist media hate America and they hate the American flag bullshit. That's going to be what they're talking about. I highly doubt, and I challenge somebody to find this, because I'm not going to spend the time watching Fox News to look it up. I'll look it up tomorrow. But if Fox News spends more than 30 minutes, no, I don't even think they're going to spend 10 minutes discussing the Senate report about the insurrection, I would be shocked. Because their coverage of like their news version coverage of the when the Republicans blocked the January 6th investigation was like, oh, there was a vote and the Republicans blocked it. And that was about it. So they'll cover this, but they're not going to cover the January 6th, the report. I guarantee you, this is going to get way more coverage than that report. It just is, because they're not arguing any points at all. The Republicans they're not. They just don't have counters. It's all bullshit. Or you'll see them complaining about Biden not saying something about D-Day or whatever the new crying thing is, or how great DeSantis is because he had a fucking concert and he said, "Oh, we hate Fauciism." It's just there's nothing there. One side is not arguing for anything, and on top of that, they're pushing things that Americans don't want. This is a PBS NewsHour. Do you support or oppose legislation that would prohibit gender transition-related medical care for minors? Now, we've covered this a lot. And for those of you who don't like Vosh, I don't give a shit. That's at the point. Who pointed this out is not important. The point of the point is the poll. Hold on one second. A lot of states, red states, are going after transgenders. They're going after them from whether they do things in sports, like at least Florida has done. I think Texas has done it, maybe one other state, or they're attempting to actually stop them from getting medical care. Here's the polling. Republicans overwhelmingly support oppose legislation. This is the blues and oppose, so they're not supporting their. So this is really worded stupid. Do you support or prohibit gender transition related? So this is, would you support legislation that stops people who want gender transition related people getting Medicare, if they want medical care for people who are trying to get gender transitions? 26 to 28%. That's how many people support it. So 64 to 78%, to 70% of the country, depending. 70%, the largest group that opposes denying medical care to people for gender transition related issues is Republicans. So this idea that now Kristi Noem, and I don't remember who I was talking to yesterday, was arguing that Kristi Noem would be a good VP candidate. She's not going to win because she refuses to treat transgender people like they're subhuman. It's as simple as that. This is not hard. This goes to the same thing we were talking about with Joe Manchin. The American people overwhelmingly want certain things, and the government just isn't doing it. Or the opposite. The American people are against certain things, and the government is doing it. Loosening of guns restrictions is not supported by the American people. Banning abortion is not supported by the American people. It just isn't. And you'll have the single issue voters, and that's what it is. You're gonna have to deal with the single issue voters. But I'm sorry, they're not the majority. And also, the other thing with this is, a lot of this legislation is, there's some of this legislation that comes in with religious stuff. A lot of like the anti-gay stuff or the abortion stuff. I don't know how to tell you this, but we don't live in a theocracy. I don't give a shit what your religion is. You can practice whatever the fuck you want, but you don't get to impose your religion on me. You don't get to impose your religious beliefs on me, and you don't get to impose them by law on other people. If you don't want to get an abortion, don't get an abortion. If you think it's a religious thing, that's fine. Don't get one, but you don't get to impose it on other people. That's not how this works. And it's always frustrating to me. It's why a lot of people, it's why a majority of the support for Israel comes from evangelicals. And that has to do with their belief that we need an Israel so that it can be destroyed, so that we can have our apocalypse scenario. All right, so let's talk about Greg Abbott. What's going on in Virginia? Oh, it's the sports. To keep Texas the best state in the nation, we could never forget why our state is so exceptional. I signed a law establishing the 1836 Project, which promotes patriotic education, ensures future generations understand Texas values. Together, we'll keep our rich history alive. Now, patriotic education is an issue. It's similar to Donald Trump's, 1776 commission? Because Republicans hate the critical race theory, and they hate the 1619 Project. Because any idea that America... Am I not following him? I should follow him, because I want to know what's going on here. America isn't this bright, shining, perfect city on a hill. Makes them feel sad. I'm not messing with Texas. I actually want Texas to be better. Because currently Texas values are more firearms, even though the police tell us not to do that, and we're against that. And fuck you guys, they froze to death. It was something like 700 Texans froze to death in Texas because of people like Greg Abbott. That's bad. That should be changed. So let's take a look at this video.
To keep Texas the best state in the United States of America, we must never forget why.
There is nothing liberal about Greg Abbott in any way, shape, or form. How is Greg Abbott too liberal for you?
Became so exceptional in the first place. A law creating the 1836 Project does that. The 1836 Project promotes patriotic education about Texas and ensures...
Okay, but... But there's no policy that describes him as liberal. He just, doesn't talk like a Texan. You're right. He needs to wear more cowboy hats and say yeehaw more.
That the generations to come understand Texas values. Under this law, every newcomer to Texas who gets a driver's license will also get a pamphlet that outlines Texas's rich history, as well as the principles that make Texas, Texas. The law also establishes the gubernatorial 1836 award to recognize students' knowledge of the founding documents about Texas history. I want to thank Representative Tam Parker for his leadership on this, as well as Representative Serrier, Representative Toth, Representative White, as well as all the members of the Texas House and Senate.
All right. So here's a write-up of this. Signed a law establishing the 1836 project. A project that seeks to raise awareness about key events in the state's history. I'm not messing with Texas. I'm actually going to enlighten you on some of your history. That's probably not going to be established in this. Said it would establish a 9-member committee to increase awareness of the Texas value. I'm not arguing any states. This has nothing to do with states. I haven't even made the argument yet. You can't just say states' rights and then go, oh, well, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. I'm happy you're glad your state's rights are you get to. I understand that. You can do whatever you want. And that's why you fucking froze, because you did whatever you wanted. I'm pointing out that this legislation is bad. If you don't want to hear why it's bad and you just want to say, America, I'm going to do whatever I want because Texas, fuck off. If you actually want to have a discussion about this piece of legislation, okay, then what are you arguing? I haven't even made an argument yet. I've literally just showed you what happened. He signed it, and now we're going over the bill. I understand the states can do what they want. It doesn't mean the states are doing the right thing. DeSantis is wrong banning trans people from sports. He was wrong when he denied medical care to the victims of the Pulse nightclub. And you know what? Chris Cuomo was wrong when he fucking killed not Chris Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo was wrong when he killed all those old people. And that's under his book is now under part of the investigation. Okay, that's fine. Let's be clear about what this legislation is. This is going to whitewash their history. And this is something that is being pushed by Republicans across the country, is a whitewashing of a history. They're more afraid of ever that this idea that they've been selling for years and years and years, that America is the shining perfect city on a hill, and that if you criticize anything ever bad, do what? I'm going to look at the legislation. I'm going to bring up some points that probably aren't going to be brought up in this legislation. This idea that if you criticize America, you hate it and therefore you should leave. You can criticize a place and want it to be better. You can account for the history of an area and understand it's not always good. No country is pristine and without faults. No country's history is pristine without faults. If you just whitewash that over and over again, you're not actually making the country better. You're making it ignorant and more likely to commit the same things. In Germany, they don't whitewash what happened in the Holocaust. At least I don't think so. No. I'm not referring to just these. Well, first off, the southern states still have a lot of racial issues anyway. And the North has issues as well. You can find issues with them as well. I'm not arguing, but they're not trying. It's not the same thing. It is a problem that there is a subsection of people in the South who argue that the Civil War was just about states' rights, and they don't think that it was what the right was. History is wrong. The state's right to do what? State's right to do what? It's state's right to do what, Dixie Balzer? What right did they break away from the country and become terrorists to the and kill the most Americans in history leading up to COVID? What was that right? It does matter. And the reason you don't want to say it is because you know you're wrong. So, would establish a 9-member committee to increase awareness of the Texas values that would continue to stimulate boundless prosperity. Robert E. Lee is a fucking traitor. Every single person who fought on the side of the Confederacy is a fucking traitor. This is not an argument. No. All right. Well, you're saying God bless. What are you? Did you watch too much of that PragerU video? Anyone who fought on the side of the Confederacy is the most anti-American people in the country, or ever. It's simple as that. They did not want America to continue. It's as simple as that. This is not up for debate. You're just wrong. Said establish a 9-member committee to increase awareness of the Texas value. And they produce pro-slavery propaganda. I mean, they're wrong about like everything. I think they've had like one good video that I've seen in the last like 4 years. 9-member committee to increase awareness of the Texas values and continue to stimulate boundless prosperity across the state. So you can't teach the 1619 Project, but you can teach. Yeah, exactly. Well, no, it's not anti-South propaganda. No, it's pro-South propaganda. They're anti-intellectual. That's what they're. This state passed a bill that would ban the teaching of the 69th Project, which examines Jewish history from the date when enslaved people first arrived at American soil, marking that year as the country's foundation. Everyone hates PragerU. What is this video? Hold on. All right, give me 1 second. I have to check to see if it's TOS. Which one is this? Is this the pro-slavery one? Was the Civil War about slavery?
My doctor requires no insurance.
No copay.
Oh, this is.
And I get to see her as many times as I want.
Was the American Civil War fought because of slavery?
Yeah, this is all garbage. This isn't even the worst one. You should look up the PragerU Robert E. Lee one, or why he should be remembered. It's like straight crazy propaganda. Yeah, but it doesn't change the fact that the Confederacy were traitors. As a traitor, no, he was a traitor. He's not a great person. Right now, the project would only be taught at state parks, museum, landmarks, but one local teacher is joining me across the street. So, look, I don't understand what the point of this is. If it's going to be taught just at state parks, museums, and landmarks. If it's taught at museums, there's a problem. He's a traitor to America. Get the fuck out of here. I might actually have to start banning people who argue to me that, like, the people who... Yeah, he did too. And that's a problem. And he saw it was a problem. But I'm not pretending that it's not. But he didn't say that, he didn't decide, you know what, I don't want to be American anymore so I can keep the slaves. That's the difference. I don't know if that's historically accurate. Look, the problem is we don't know enough about this bill, and there's a good chance that it's not going to do it because Texas's history just to start is just like wild. It and then how we ended up obtaining Texas and California from Mexico. There's a lot of negative connotations for this. And then I imagine they're not going to cover the gasoline showers that they did at the border, which was then copied by the Nazis into their gas chambers. So there's a lot of history in Texas that needs to be covered, and I don't think it's going to be covered in this. Or it needs to just be talked about more. I mean, literally the only reason after we got Texas and California that we didn't annex all of Mexico is because racist senators were like, do you expect us to share land on equal rights with Mexicans and mixed races? We could have had all of Mexico, and we didn't due to racism. Not to mention all the indigenous people we wiped out when we took Texas. So the issue with this thing is, right now we don't know what the hell it is. Other amendments in this bill include raising awareness of the state's Christian heritage and its tradition of owning guns, as well as acknowledging the Texas origins of the annual Juneteenth holiday. I'm a hater of what? I have a problem with Christian heritage, though. It seems a little weird to show your religion, to worry about your religion when we're not a theocracy. That's just where I... What does that even mean? Wait, where are you from? Oh. How does it feel to be in a state where your senators don't give a shit about you? Oh, no wonder you're arguing with this. Look, man, I want you to be in a better state. Let's look at Kentucky. Ranking among education. Kentucky rates 45th overall. '48th in poverty. '44th in healthcare. Kentucky rankings. 30 were college educated. Oh, you're 36th in education. 13th in crime and corrections. What is this? What does this mean? How do they measure this? What does that mean? What does that mean? What is your heritage? This stuff is all... Oh, shit, my bad. Kentucky rankings. Who is taking away your land? What are you even talking about? Which conversation are you having with me? Because it's not the one I'm having with you. I don't know what this means. This is a weird metric. Which federal government? Wait, what do you... I don't even know what you're talking about. Which rabbit hole are you chasing? What the fuck? What does that have to do with anything that I've said? Look, these are bad metrics, most of these. The healthcare is bad. The education is bad. The economy is bad. The Kentucky economy is subsidized by New York and California. Bro, you are out of your mind. Okay, so 516 every... You do, because if you actually look at how much money you get from the federal government versus how much money you put into it, you are in a massive net negative. No, you would literally crumble. You would not be able to function as you currently do without the blue states. You do not have the infrastructure to set it up because you do not put in enough. Let me show you this. How much money does Kentucky give in taxes versus how much it receives? Most and least federally dependent states. Oh, look at this. Number 4 in most federally dependent states. Let's see if I can find. Lowest amount of federal contracts received. Highest amount of federal contracts received. Highest amount of other financial assistance received per number of federal taxes paid. 48, Kentucky. Blue states are less dependent on the federal government than red states. I wonder why. All right, man. You're out of your mind. Yeah, war crimes are bad. And you're living in a different century where you don't have any idea what's actually happening with the rest of us. So here's an interesting thing. ProPublica. Trolls have never before see records reveal how the wealthiest avoid income taxes. Now remember, Joe Biden has asked for an increase in the federal in the IRS to of $80 million, $80 billion. The projected return on this is somewhere between $780 billion and $1 trillion. Why? Because these fucks don't pay their goddamn taxes. In 2007, Jeff Bezos, then a multi-billionaire and now the world's richest man, did not pay a penny in federal income taxes. He achieved this feat again in 2011. In 2018, Tesla's founders, Elon Musk, the second richest person in the world, also paid no federal income taxes. Michael Bloomberg managed to do the same in recent years. Billionaire investor Carl Icahn did it twice. George Soros paid no federal income tax for 3 years in a row. I'm not even getting to that. Look, this is all a huge fucking problem. Well, George Soros obviously pays no income tax because he's too busy funneling every single left-wing plot across the world. He's paying for the caravans. He's paying for Antifa. He's paying for Black Lives Matter. He's paying for like whatever the boogeyman of the week is. George Soros is paying for. So of course he can't pay any federal income taxes. He doesn't make any fucking money. I find both of them an issue. I was clearly being sarcastic. I also didn't say that one of them was an issue and the other one wasn't. Taken together, demolishes the cornerstone myth of the American tax system, that everyone pays their fair share and the richest Americans pay the most. Records show that the wealthiest can perfectly legally pay income taxes that only a tiny fraction of hundreds of millions, if not billions, their fortunes grow each year. Many Americans live paycheck to paycheck, amassing little wealth and paying the federal government percentages of the incomes that rise if they earn more. Hold on, does this have the other one? No, yeah. Oh, it's after this. The median American household earned $70,000 annually and paid 14% in federal taxes. The highest income rate, 37%, kicked in this year for couples earning above $628,000. American billionaires avail themselves of tax avoidance strategies beyond the reach of ordinary people. Their wealth derives from the skyrocketing value of their assets, like stocks and properties. These gains are not defined by U.S. law as taxable income unless and until the billionaires sell. Okay, first off, you cannot be a Democrat and be Nazi-like because Nazi is a right-wing. Both a Nazi and fascists are right-wing ideologies. So, according to Forbes, the 25 people saw their is it these people? We compare how much the taxes of the 25 richest people in America. So let's. Yes, they literally are. I don't have time. I'm not explaining what a Nazi is to you. And I know what you're. Why? Because you're too lost in like a totally different sauce. It's not this ideology that the Dinesh D'Souza argument of it, which is they call themselves socialists, so therefore they're socialist, but they didn't actually enact any type of socialist policy. And the first people they killed were the socialists. Understand your history. You don't understand anything. Okay, so these are the 25 people. It's Bezos, Musk. I don't even know half of these people. They killed the social. And then they killed all the socialists. And then they did right-wing ideologies. And the Nazis are not a left-wing thing. That's insanity. Where am I? Oh, it goes back to. All right, so they had the 25 richest Americans. According to Forbes, those 25 people saw their worth rise a collective $401 billion from 2014 to 2018. It's not a moron. It also doesn't mean that they enacted actual left-wing policies that would create them being socialists. Stalin was a fascist. He pretended to be a communist. It turned into a fascist regime, but it doesn't. You have to actually enact leftist views in order to be viewed as a leftist. That wasn't what they did. Also, what are you arguing that the Democrats are pushing that's fascism? They paid a total of $13.6 billion. I'm not fanatic. You're not actually making an argument. You're just babbling. Look, I'm not advocating for either of those things. No, you have no idea what you're talking about because I don't actually push for any of those things. If anything, that's a Republican push for 1984. They want to control. They want to control all these things. What are you subscribing to me that is your ideology that a left wing person wants Nazism? Like what policies are you going to say invokes Nazism? And if you say mask, I'm going to ban you. Tell me what your argument is that the Democrats are Nazi-like. I'm not calling you Republican. I never said you were a Republican. I have not subscribed any ideology to you. I want you to explain what you mean by telling me the Democrats are Nazi-like. And if you tell me it's because they advocate for masks, I will ban you because that's incredibly disrespectful to what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust. Who? What the fuck are you talking about? Who? I've literally never heard this talking point. And which set of Democrats are you referring to? Are you referring to the pre-Southern strategy when the Dixiecrats switched? All right, now you get mad. We don't do anti-Semitism. That shit is not happening. Okay, so according to this, 25 people saw their worth rise a collective $4.1 billion from 2014 to 2018. They paid a total of $13.6 billion in federal income taxes for those 5 years. So, according to this, the 25 richest people. How did you just follow me after I banned you? How did that even happen? I'll have to deal with this later. I imagine I'm going to clip a lot of the things that I say. That's fine. I don't give a shit. So according to this, the top 25 people from 2014 to 2018 only paid 3.4% of their taxes. It's after this. So then the average middle class American saw their net worth expand by $65,000 after taxes, but because the bulk value of their salaries, the tax was almost nearly basically they only increased by $3,000 in the same period. And the reason is we don't tax the wealthy right. Turns out that works out to a true tax rate of 0.1% or less than 10 cents for every $100 he added in his wealth. I mean, this is why we have to tax the wealthy. This is what they say. We could tax Jeff Bezos for $100 billion, and he would still have almost $100 billion left. It's not, they don't pay their fair share. It's obvious. And their corporations don't pay their fair share. So we have to change the tax code so it actually works for the American people. I'm sorry, I'm just very frustrated right now. I'm also very confused how this happened. Let me just check something. Okay, so he didn't follow me. Good. I don't know how that seemed to have happened. Look, man, I don't mind. I don't want to be clear for anyone who's still watching what the fuck just happened. I don't mind people who are wrong. And I don't mind people who disagree with me. But I want you to engage in an honest conversation. And when you start saying things like, start pushing anti-Semitic things, I will ban you. Let us be very clear for anyone who stumbled onto this stream and wondered why I banned him. I banned him not because he was clearly an idiot. I banned him because he was saying some he was starting with anti-Semitic, and I was very clear about this. And this is going to be the standard for the future. For any person who comes into this chat and argues to me that wearing masks are the equivalent of what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust, I will ban you immediately. First off, you're incredibly stupid to argue that, and it's also incredibly disrespectful. This is not up for debate. If you want to argue communism or socialism or whatever the fuck it is, that's fine. You want to argue that the Confederacy were not traitors? Cool, you're wrong, but we'll have the discussion. But I have a real sore spot with people playing down the Holocaust and being anti-Semitic. Fucking goddamn it. All right, where were we? All right, so this is an interesting article. I'm going to keep an eye on this. This ProPublica piece. I'll be curious to see what else they come out with. But look, the fact that they pay like 3.4% or like less than 1% over a period, and look, this is not even accounting for the pandemic, because if you remember, Jeff Bezos lost half of his wealth in his divorce, and then he became even richer than he was before his divorce due to the pandemic. I'm not worried about. There's nothing wrong with making wealth, and this is something that is always used as a talking point against people who say tax the wealthy. It's currently being used against. Hold on, it's a. Oh, this is the wrong thing. Against this fucking girl. I don't want to get into it because this argument is incredibly stupid. But apparently, she was some TikTok person who did something about like tax the rich, and then it turned out that she bought some like $2 million house or some shit. And they're like, oh, she's a hypocrite. And this is the same thing they said against Bernie. The only thing that would make them a hypocrite is if they then made money and then said not to tax them on it. That's not what taxing the wealthy is. You can make money. You just have to pay your fair share. Which this, on top of tons of other data, proves that they are not. It is that clear. So this idea that like if you're a socialist, you have to give away all your money, or if you want to tax the wealthy, you have to give away all your money, or like if you're for the Green New Deal, you can't fly in planes and stuff. These are just stupid ass talking points, and you need to like think things through. Look, this is the problem with a lot of our discourse. It's incredibly stupid. Very often in our discourse, it is surface level analogy. And a perfect example of this is Meghan McCain on The View. I don't show you pictures of things of The View because I literally never watch it, and like 90% of what comes out of it is just garbage. Even though it was like considered, what was the actual reference? The View being number one political show. How The View became the most important political TV show in America. This is like fucking crazy. There's no way The View in a healthy country should be the most important political show. And I get it. You should be able to go on things. I'm not saying The View shouldn't exist, but I'm saying, it's a different type of audience to people who don't spend time, watching me or watching the news or like really living into it. But if you look at the surface level analysis of the things that have come out from it, like Meghan McCain arguing that Joe Manchin not getting rid of the filibuster is the equivalent to, her argument was, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to pull it up. See if I can find it. Okay, so here he has the clip. So I'm just gonna anyone who follows me should watch him. I really enjoy him. He's a Canadian, but he does a good job. So I think this is what she says.
What's your thoughts?
I have a few thoughts.
But before I get to any of that, here is Meghan McCain defending Joe Manchin.
What should Democrats be? Should they be upset with Manchin, or should they be looking?
Keep in mind, Meghan McCain simply has this position because she's John McCain's daughter, and that's what she talks about all the time. I'm John McCain's daughter, so I am the absolute Republican.
As someone who is, trying to lead forward thinking, what's your thoughts?
I have a few thoughts. I could literally debate the filibuster for this entire show, but we're literally at 0 times.
What's your thoughts?
I have a few thoughts. I could literally debate the filibuster for this entire show.
Okay, so first off, that's a meaningless statement. I could debate the filibuster for this entire show, and I have infinite time. It doesn't mean anything. Just to that. We literally opened this show. I actually started debating the filibuster. Wasn't the plan, but it happened.
Literally at 0 times, so I'm gonna try and talk fast on Joe Manchin. What's fascinating to me is that Democrats would seem to rather have a Republican in the Senate in Joe Manchin's seat than have any moderates. In my home state of Arizona, Kristen Sinema is also someone that came out and said that she wouldn't vote for the filibuster either. I think Mark Kelly is also going to be someone that is, more centrist, and they're going to have to answer these tough questions. There's so many conversations about whether or not Republicans have to bend the knee to Trump. Well, do Democrats have to bend the knee to the squad? And
look, here is why that's incredibly stupid. The idea the Republicans keep doing this because they did this with Ilhan Omar, where they said she writes all the foreign policy. There is no world where the squad is running our government. They just aren't. They're just used as boogeymen. I wish they had more power. But they don't. And nobody's saying Joe Manchin has to be a liberal Democrat. I don't care. We're Big Tent. We can have conservative Democrats in it. There's nothing wrong with that. And I understand some places need conservative Democrats to win. That's not the issue. And Republicans bend the knee to Trump on everything, pretty much.
Everything on the far left, because it looks like AOC and the squad is dictating who's allowed in your party as well. Joe Manchin. I
mean, this is just not true. Joe Manchin is perfectly welcome in the party. And people who agree with our views are fine. As long as you... The difference is, what is he doing? This is a deeper, broader context, and that she's missing, which isn't a surprise.
Won the state of West Virginia, which overwhelmingly it was the state that went the highest voting for Trump in the entire union. Maybe Democrats can learn something about winning red states, but instead of taking the lessons of Joe Manchin, they'd rather just, call him a heretic and call him a traitor. And by the way, if you're a Republican that votes against your party, you're a hero and a maverick. So
now, this is where I'm talking about context. What is the context that we're referring to where people on the Republican side are considered a hero or, as she says, a maverick? Well, let's take the maverick because that's obviously a shot at her dad. What was the thing John McCain was lambasted for by Trump for basically ever? Currently still the thing Trump hates him for? What was it, Megan? Oh, yeah. He saved fucking healthcare for 20 million Americans. That's a good fucking thing. The day where a man saves healthcare for 20 million Americans and he is rejected by your party should be a problem for your party. You shouldn't use that as a standard bearer. When Mitt Romney voted to impeach Trump the first time and then impeach him the second time, he held as hero for obviously doing the right thing, and because the Republican Party so consistently does the wrong thing. It's about fucking context. Part of the problem with our discourse is it's surface level context. And now I'm not saying everyone has to be a policy expert on every single thing. I'm not. And I live for this. I watch the news obsessively. I follow everything. There's a lot of stuff that happens that I don't want to talk about because it's a waste of my time. You will never see me on another conversation with somebody about kink and pride. Ever. There's plenty of stories that other streamers cover that I don't give a shit about. Because the point of this is to help bring to light the actual issues that are going on and to educate people on what is happening in this country. Because the biggest issue with this country is our lack of civil understanding of what is currently happening in our government. The fact that this is considered a political talk show and that people are going to see this and equate what Joe Manchin is doing to what John McCain and Mitt Romney doing as the same thing lacks all sorts of broader context, and that's a problem. There's a reason this is called wildly stupid, because that's what it is. The reason Meghan McCain trends all the time on Twitter is because she constantly says wildly stupid things. So it's about context. That's what it is. So, Joe Manchin. This is Joe Manchin writing. He wrote this weekend. He wrote it Sunday. Why I'm voting against the For the People Act. And then we have a poll. And for those of you who weren't here in the morning. Actually, you know what? Give me 1 second. Here's Discord link. Reminder that tomorrow we will be doing the regular show at 1, and we'll be doing the podcast reporting at 8:30 or at 8. So I'll probably come on around 7:30, depending on who are the games tomorrow. Give me 1 second. Tomorrow who's playing? Oh, they don't play till 9:30, so we don't even have to worry about that. So we'll probably just do that. Then I'll probably be looking up some more basketball stuff or any late politics stuff before we go on that stream. But yeah, why I'm voting against the For the People Act. The right to vote is fundamental to our American democracy, and protecting the right to vote should not be about party or politics. Least of all, protecting this right, which is a value I share, should never be done in a partisan manner. This is time as Secretary of State. The hell? Hold on one second. I'm not having a conversation with the person. Unfortunately, we are now witnessing the fundamental right to vote has become overly politicized. Today's debate about how to best protect our right to vote and to hold elections, however, is not about finding common ground, but seeking partisan advantage. He's right. I mean, this is objectively true. Whether it's state laws that seek to needlessly restrict voting or politicians who ignore the need to secure our elections, partisan policymaking won't instill confidence in our democracy. It will destroy it. Again, everything in this paragraph is objectively correct. As such, congressional action of federal voting rights legislation must be a result of Democrat and Republicans coming together to find a pathway forward, or risk further dividing and destroying the republic we swore to protect and defend as election officials. This is where it starts to go off the rails. Democrats in Congress have proposed a sweeping election reform bill called For the People Act. This more than 800-page bill has garnered zero Republican support. Why? Are the very Republican senators who voted to impeach Trump because of the actions that led to an attack of our democracy unwilling to support actions to strengthen our democracy? Are these same senators who many in my party applaud for their courage now threats to the very democracy we seek to protect? My answer? Yes. But here's the other thing. The reason they don't want to vote for this is because of the things that are said in this paragraph. Why would I? Let's put it in. Let's give this a sports analogy. We're playing a game, and I changed the rules so it's easier for my team to win. You have the ability, now your side has the ability to create a set of rules that evens the playing field. However, you need this one person on your team to help vote to vote for it, correct? What he says is, I will not vote on a bill that will help you level the playing field, even playing field, unless you get the side that's already cheating by changing the rules in their favor to vote with me to level the playing field so both sides have the same chance. This is the fundamental part of his argument. You can't win if you seek to get the opinion of the side that's cheating to help uncheat. There's a reason, because they're cheating for a reason. And the reason is Republicans cannot win on their IDs. That is why things like nonpartisan third-party redrawing of elections, having federally funded elections, having knowing who your dark money donors are, these are things they will never support. Why? Because if you don't gerrymander, the country is more left-wing. There is more Republican and independent voters than there are there are more Democrats and independent voters than there are Republicans. And the Republican ideals, by and large, are not popular even among Republicans. But they control power through a minority vote because they have gerrymandered the hell out of this country. And the majority vote doesn't matter for the Senate, which is a totally different story. So that is what he's wrong on. The truth, I would argue, is that voting in election reform that is done in a partisan manner will ensure partisan divide continue to happen. But why is it partisan? With that in mind, some Democrats have again proposed eliminating the Senate filibuster rule in order to pass the For the People Act with only Democratic support. Now, let's be clear. If you eliminate the filibuster and you only need a 50-vote threshold, this is the same argument as the American healthcare plan. Do you think that the American healthcare plan should not have passed because it got no Republican support, even though you, Joe Manchin, almost sank the whole bill so that you can make it worse so that the Republicans would vote for you, and then they didn't? The thing that nobody ever tells him is, even if you remove the 60 vote threshold, Republicans can still vote for it. In the same way they can still vote for reconciliation. They can still vote for these things. They're not going to because it gives them an advantage not to. It is said by much wiser people that absolute power corrupts absolutely. Yes, this is true, but this would not give you absolute power. Because you still need your whole party. And especially in a 50-50 split, Joe Manchin, you can still stop bills by your... Actually, I don't know if you know this, Joe Manchin, but if you allow it to be a 50-vote threshold, every single senator on the Democratic side can veto a bill. Every single one. But then there's this other thing that you don't seem to understand. What would happen if you just started pushing just nonsense bills through because you control the House and the Senate, but you control them by the current margins that they are? There's this third thing that you don't seem to know. It's called the president. The president has this power called a veto. How do you override a veto? Well, you need to have 3/5. You need 2/3 of the Senate, which requires 66 senators. So if you only passed a bill by 51 votes, what makes you think you're going to get 16 more votes to be able to pass it through a veto? That's called checks and balances. That's how this government works. This process can be frustrating and slow. It will force compromises that are not always ideal. This is just not true. This is just stupid. I cannot explain strictly partisan election reform or blowing up the Senate rules to expedite one party's agenda. By not removing... Look, all right, I don't need to cover the rest of this. By not removing the filibuster, you're basically handing democracy over to the Republicans. Because unless there is some freak election where one party gains 60 votes, 60 senators, the party that wants to pass things through reconciliation or whatever's eliminated from the filibuster will be the party that can do things. So in that way, we will never get Green New Deal. We will never be able to deal with climate. We will never be able to deal with foreign policy. We will never be able to deal with guns. We will never be able to deal with infrastructure. None of these things will happen because one party just refuses to help the other party. And they've said this in both the last two Democratic administrations. Under Barack Obama and under Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell's stance has been, I will stop every single piece of legislation that exists. And you know what? Joe Manchin somehow saw that as, no, Mitch wants to work with me. He's actually, hold on, I'm going to pull this up. We're going to go to his interview with Chris Wallace in a minute. But this is West Virginia's opinion on Biden's proposal, American COVID relief plan. This has the highest opposal to it. Keep in mind, I don't know if you guys can hear that. Is that fucking everything up? Keep in mind, the Democrats passed two separate bills for Donald Trump, and the Republicans wouldn't pass one under Joe Biden. The American Jobs Plan has 68% approval, 64% approval. The For the People Act, the one he says he's against, has 79% support among his constituents. Hey, Joe Manchin, I know you squeaked by in your election and it's not clear whether or not you're going to run again, but on the off chance you decide to actually do that, wouldn't it make more sense to do the thing that the people want? That's just what I would think. But what do I know? I'm not Joe Manchin. Let's hear what Joe Manchin has to say to Chris Wallace.
Per capita in hopes of striking a bipartisan deal. Meanwhile, Democrats are taking steps to go it alone. Joining us now, the man in the middle on Capitol Hill, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin.
Chris Wallace mispronounced president.
Senator, the president and Senate Republicans are still far apart on any kind of infrastructure compromise. I want you to take a look at some of the differences. We're going to put them up. The president now wants $1 trillion. He's come down from 2.25. $1 trillion in new spending on infrastructure. Republicans are offering $300 billion in new spending. The president proposes a minimum corporate tax rate of 15% to pay for it.
Keep in mind, this is a massive concession right here. The thing that Biden originally opened with was raising the corporate tax rate to 28%, which would still be 7% lower than it was under Barack Obama prior to the Trump tax cuts. Joe Manchin's response to that was, no, the compromise is too high. I want 25%. And which Joe Biden responded is, we're going to raise the corporate tax rate at the bottom to at least 15%. So we're going to give them another tax cut. Republicans say, no. The people who should be paying for this infrastructure bill are you. Not the wealthy, not their corporations. You. How are they going to do this? They want to pay for it through user fees and like gas taxes.
Republicans oppose any tax increase. So as you can see, they're far apart. You're part of another bipartisan Senate group working on a possible compromise. If this negotiation falls apart, and it sure looks like it's going to, what's your plan?
Well, Chris, first of all, I commend the President and Senator Capito, my colleague from West Virginia, for continuing to work hard. They're working hard trying to find a compromise. They've come a long way, and they're moving in the right direction.
By come a long way, he means that the Democrats have gone down by their proposal, which was inadequate to fit the issues that we were facing in the first place. They've cut it in half, and the Republicans have gone from. So originally they said they wanted to do like $900 billion, but a lot of this money comes from unspent COVID money, which is earmarked for the future, like for houses and schools and hospitals. So they've gone up from $250 billion to $300 billion, and the Biden administration went from $1.7 trillion to $1 trillion. One side's moving in the wrong direction way faster.
We have to wait and see the outcome. You know, Shelley's also a part of what we call our G20 club, which is basically there's 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans. So
this club that he's talking about, hold on, let's pull it back.
To wait and see the outcome. You know, Shelley's also a part of what we call our G20 club.
This is an expansion of the Gang of Eight. It's nothing. They're pretending to do things to appease this man.
Which is basically there's 10 Democrats and 10 Republicans. So we're working with everybody that we can, bringing all the different good ideas to the table of how we come together. We need a bipartisan infrastructure bill. We most definitely need that. And infrastructure, something's been delayed for far too long by past administrations. So it's time for us to move forward. There's a lot that's been done with the COVID bills that we put out that basically overlap in some areas of infrastructure, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I think we can come to that compromise to where we'll find a bipartisan deal. I'm very, very confident of that.
Well, Secretary of Energy Granholm reiterated this morning that House Democrats are going to start their markup of the bill with or without Republicans. And if there is no compromise on infrastructure, and I think it's fair to say maybe not enough, but that Joe Biden has made some big concessions both on spending and a different tax plan. If it were to go in the Senate as a straight party line vote.
So here's the other thing. The Republicans have made zero concessions. Zero. When you do a negotiation in this idea of bipartisanship and centrism, which I truly believe is like one of the most dangerous ideologies for our country, you would have to assume that both sides would actually attempt to do this. And I made an actual pitch for Republicans that would be a legitimate bipartisan deal. You don't like all the things that help help families with paying for daycare. You don't like any of the Green New Deal stuff. You don't like any of the green research stuff. You don't like any of that. take that money out and then put it into the things that you want. If you truly believe that we need more for housing, for roads, for broadband, for waterways, whatever they consider real infrastructure, whatever their definition of it is, why would you not take the money that you don't like and just put it into the other things that you do like? Because even in Biden's original plan, it's not enough money. It just isn't. And infrastructure is not something we can piecemeal together. Infrastructure is something that we have to put together and spend as much as it takes to fix the problem. Because the longer you don't fix the problem or you piecemeal it, the worse it's going to be when it fucks up.
On, through budget reconciliation, will you support that kind of bill? In other words, I guess what I'm asking is a straight party line infrastructure bill better than no bill at all?
Well, I think, I still have all the confidence in the world, Chris, we're going to get there. My goodness, the president has gone from 2.25 trillion down to 1 trillion.
Keep in mind, when this first came out, Joe Manchin said he wanted a $4 trillion bill.
The Republicans have come up quite a bit from where they started.
No, they have not. They have not. They just haven't.
Type of challenges we had back last year when we had to all get together and break a deadlock. But we're not there yet. I think they're going to be talking again tomorrow. We'll wait. We'll talk to Senator Capito after those meetings. We'll talk to the White House. And we think we can find a pathway forward. We're not that far apart. Look at the thing.
We are massively far apart.
I want to say this. In the first 5 months of this year, we have operated more the way the Senate's supposed to operate in a bipartisan way than ever since I've been here in 10 years. So under Senator Schumer's leadership, we've had more bills, we've had more amendments voted on, we've gone through a normal process more, and people are continually trying to push us to more division. And I keep saying, let's continue.
Okay, but here's the question, Joe. If you truly believe this is what's happening, which I have no idea what you're referring to in which it would happen, how many Republicans have actually voted on things? The only piece of legislation you can point to that Republicans have actually joined Democrats in that has passed is the Violence Against Asian American Act, which is a no-brainer. Literally, it's a no-brain vote for somebody not to vote against it. So Josh Hawley is clearly an idiot for voting against it, and had Rand Paul or Ted Cruz been there, they also probably would have voted against it. But on the big issues, you haven't gotten bipartisanship enough to pass it. Remember, Joe, how did you pass the COVID relief bill? Oh yeah, reconciliation. Remember that bill that you almost sank so that you could cut parts of it out so that Republicans would work with you? And then they didn't vote for it anyway? What the fuck are you talking about?
Working. The Senate's working. We've done bipartisan in the Asian hate crime bill. It was, 94-1. We're now based on the new frontier, the endless frontier.
Oh, thank you, CTV. Holy crap, CTV, you're here? I didn't even know you. Turn on Cartroid and re-angle the mic. I don't know what that means. Hold on. Oh, you can see the back of my mic? Oh, so I just have it the wrong direction? Is that what you're saying? This isn't rotating. Hold on, let me deal with this person. It is 2 dials, one for game. The one that looks like a crescent. Hold on. Why won't you turn? They're going for the left. Yeah, alright, I see. It's just not. myself. Hold on. I might bang this too many times. That's not enough. Okay, I can move the gain one, but this one is not moving. I might have smacked it too much. I changed the gain a little bit on the middle. Oh, hold on. This is not turning at all. I'm gonna have to play with this later. All right, I'll play with that later and deal with it. But thank you for the advice. This is still muted. No, it's not muted. Okay, fixed it. Why is it so bright? I'll play with it later. It's not moving right now.
We're going to do that bipartisan next week as soon as we get back. So we're moving in the right direction.
Let me ask you about another issue, voting rights. You're the only Democrat in the Senate who is not supporting S1, the so-called For the People Act, which would be a major voting reform bill. You say it's too broad and too partisan, and instead you support.
All right, I'll take that advice. I'll play around with it. I think I might have broken this, which is unfortunate. I haven't really listened to it, so I'll look at it and see how I can fix it.
Basically a renewal of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which says that the feds get pre-clearance on any voting right changes in individual states, but you'd like it to apply
Thank you,
to
man.
all 50
Although,
states.
hold on, I'm pretty sure I'm following you. I appreciate you stopping by, CTV.
Just the states in the
Yeah,
South
so
that had a
familiar.
history of segregation. A couple of questions. One, is Chuck Schumer making a mistake in pushing this big bill, the For the People Act, and saying that he wants to vote on it by the end of the month? And two, if he does bring it to the floor, will you vote against that bill?
Well, I've been pretty clear on that. I did an op-ed back home in West Virginia. It came out today, and laid out my concerns and my preference of what I think would happen. Voting is the bedrock of our democracy. An open, fair, secured voting. We used to go around the world and explain and show and observe voting procedures in a democracy. And now if we can't practice what we preach, and we're going to basically do an overhaul, an 800-page overhaul of the voting rights, or what we call For the People Act. I think there's a lot of great things. I agree in that piece of legislation, but there's an awful lot of things that basically don't pertain directly to voting. So the Voting Rights Act,
So let me just...
Sure.
Just to put a
Oh yeah, because I was hopping into, because I've seen some of your streams. I've seen you guys on the debate. We've actually been on. We've had at least one discussion on debate channels. But no, I've watched some of your stuff. A lot of it, what we do is our timing it overlaps. So I haven't watched like a lot of your midday streams, but I've seen some of your stuff. I have to actually watch more of your midday streams because I know they're very interesting. But yeah, appreciate you stopping by.
a button on this, you will vote against that bill if it gets to the Senate floor.
I think it's the wrong piece of legislation to bring our country together and unite our country, and I'm not supporting that because I think it would divide us further. I don't want to be in a country that's divided any further than I'm in right now. I love my country, and I think my Democrat and Republican colleagues feel the same. If we continue to divide it and separate us more, it's not going to be united. It's not going to be the country that we love and know, and it's going to be hard because
this is just wrong. He just is. It's just wrong to say that this bill would allow more people to vote and to make our elections more fair, because this would this idea that there's the elections aren't accurate is just not true, and these bills don't the state bills don't
help the issue that they pretend there is. But things like the voting rights would actually help our democracy. Removing partisan gerrymandering, allowing for federal financing of elections, for taking dark money out of politics. Things like this would actually help us have a better democracy, because these are things that people stand for. Even Republicans advocate for not for anti-corruption bills. This is anti-corruption stuff.
Back and forth, no matter who's in power, and that's why I've been protecting.
So that brings
the process.
Well, let me just add. That brings us to a comment by President Biden this week about you and Arizona Senator Kirsten Sinema. Take a look.
I hear all the folks on TV saying, why doesn't Biden get this done? Well, because Biden only has a majority of effectively 4 votes in the House and a tie in the Senate, with 2 members of the Senate who vote more with my Republican friends.
So based on like actual polling, I'm pretty sure Joe Manchin votes pretty consistently with Democrats. But it's like the key is like, just, and I've explained this earlier, just voting for an issue doesn't mean dick unless it passes. So the way for him to actually help this is to do things like the filibuster. And look, I'm not even saying he has to totally get rid of the filibuster. There are compromises you can make on the filibuster to still keep it. One of the ones he's advocated for is a talking filibuster. One of the ones I've advocated for, which I think is the fairest, is a sliding scale filibuster. So what that means is you debate a topic, and the first week it requires 60 votes to pass. And then you keep debating it, and then 2 days later you vote again, and it requires 58 votes to pass. And then 2 days later it takes 55 votes, and eventually it scales down to 50 votes. But that way you would actually have a discussion, but the bill would not just be dead. Or you could do carve-outs. You can carve out from different things, like the reconciliation. Reconciliation is carved out specifically for just what's it called? Just the financial stuff. You need it to be that's how it does it. But you could do it, and I think that one of the key ones should be DC should be a 50 vote threshold. No, you should not be able to filibuster DC statehood. That is insane. But you can build what the filibuster would do like that way, because we've done it. We did it for reconciliation. We've done it for judges. This is not like a new concept. Just keeping it as it is not a good way for the country to function.
Now, we looked it up, and in fact, on bills that have gotten to the Senate floor, you have voted with President Biden 100% of the time, but you have opposed him on bills that haven't gotten to the Senate yet. For instance, this For the People Act, which the Democrats intend to put on the floor. You say you're going to vote against that. You're against the $15 minimum wage. I don't really want to get into the details of those, but is it fair when Joe Biden says he doesn't have solid support from Democrats like you?
I think that's taken out of content, and I really, on that, I support President Biden, what he's doing, what he's trying to do. No one understands the Senate, the makeup of the Senate, and the challenges that we have as a Senate more than President Joe Biden, who was here over 30-some years. With that, he understands there's got to find a pathway forward. And Joe Biden always could do that. And I know he understands where we are on this, and we're trying to find a pathway. Of course, he has his position. He lays out his proposals. We look at those and we make adjustments accordingly. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think deep down in his heart, he knows we need to bring this country together. So I've said this. I believe Joe Biden is the right person, the right place, the right time for our country. Now we have to unite together. And that means a little bit of difficulties and challenges, but we'll get through it. We're the most deliberate body in the world. And that was by design.
I want to ask you 2 questions quickly, if I can, Senator Manchin, about that. First of all, you have made it clear, and I'm not going to ask you again, you said that you oppose scrapping the filibuster. The question I have is whether or not, and you say you hope that that'll bring the parties together, the question I have is whether or not you're doing it exactly the wrong way. And hear me out on this. If you were to keep the idea that maybe you would vote to kill the filibuster, wouldn't that give Republicans an incentive to actually negotiate? Because old Joe Manchin's out there, and who knows what he's going to do by taking it off the table. Haven't you empowered Republicans to be obstructionists?
That's a really good fucking question.
I don't don't think so, because we have 7 brave Republicans that continue to vote for what they know is right and the facts as they see them, not worrying about the political consequences. I believe there's a lot more of my Republican colleagues.
Okay, the problem with that is you need 10. And you had 7 with 1 missing. You still need 10. So even if you say you think there are more, they haven't proved it. They voted for this legislation, you had 7. They voted for impeachment, you had 7. But on the last big piece of legislation, you had 0. 0. None. Nada.
Feel the same way. I'm just hoping they are able to rise to the occasion to defend our country and support our country and make sure that we have...
But this is so frustrating because there's no reason for them to do that.
Democracy for this republic of all the people. I'm just very hopeful that I see good signs. We're doing, Chris, more things than ever before. Give us some time. I know everyone's putting deadlines.
Well,
got to be done by this, and this.
But let me ask you the final question, sir. I mean, let's just take the idea of creating a 9/11 commission to investigate the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. Republicans blocked that. Senator McConnell, the head of the Republicans in the Senate, says that he's 100% focused on blocking the Biden agenda. Question, aren't you being naive about this continuing talk about bipartisan cooperation?
I'm not being naive. I think he's 100% wrong in trying to...
He's 100% wrong on his own ideology. Is a wild statement to make.
Block all the good things that we're trying to do for America. It'd be a lot better if we had participation, and we're getting participation, but when it comes time to final vote, and I disagree with Leader McConnell on this, the minority leader on this issue, that he puts politics before the policies that I think we need for our country. I'm going to continue to keep working with my bipartisan friends, and hopefully we can get more of them. I can tell you this, in 2013, at that time, Harry Reid, the leader of the majority party of the Democrats, basically the nuclear option, which did away the filibuster on appointments and district and circuit judges. Come back to 2017, then we had Leader McConnell at that time in the majority, and he did away with it for the Supreme.
Right, look, this is, I don't think this is, we didn't even switch that, my bad. I don't think this is even a good argument. I just don't. It to me is not a effective argument because I don't believe that the Republicans are pushing things that would actually be bad if they remove the filibuster, because they don't need the filibuster anyway. So we're about done for today. Tomorrow we'll be back at 1, and then we'll be back around 7:30 for the basketball one, and then that's really it. Once again, for people who were hearing me while I was arguing with that guy, I don't have an issue with people who have opposing views to me. I actually want them to come in. You will get banned from my stream for a few things: violence, outright and overt racism, anti-Semitism, and this is one I've just decided on. If you equate wearing masks to the Holocaust, you will immediately be banned, and I will not let you back in because I know you can let people back in. That will happen. So I appreciate everyone joining. Please follow me here. Here's the Discord. Follow me on the Discord, and I will see you all tomorrow.